What if I told you that behind some of the greatest works of English literature stands a woman whose story has been deliberately hidden for over 400 years? A woman who survived the murder of her father, found protection under Queen Elizabeth herself, and became the first woman to publish poetry in her own name in England. Meet Emilia Lanier, née Bassano, a dark-skinned Jewish noblewoman, master kabbalist, scholar, actress, dancer, and literary genius whose influence shaped the very foundation of English literature. Yet modern scholars have tried to reduce her legacy to nothing more than a footnote, often misrepresenting her as something she never was. Today we're diving deep into the real story of Emilia Lanier's extraordinary life. This is the sequel to our exploration of how she and the crypto-Jewish Bassanos secretly created English literature. We'll uncover how tragedy struck her family when she was just 7 years old, how Queen Elizabeth took pity on this brilliant young girl and ensured her protection, and how Emilia rose to become one of the most influential young women of her time, sharing ancient wisdom through her groundbreaking poetry. Her story isn't just about literature, it's about survival, brilliance, and the power of hidden knowledge passed down through the generations. Let's start at the beginning, with a family that would shape the future of English culture in ways that many people never imagined. Emilia Lanier was born just prior to the 27th of January 1569 into the Bassano family, a remarkable dynasty of Sephardic Jewish musicians who had fled religious persecution in Italy. Her father, Battista Bassano, was no ordinary court musician. He was one of Queen Elizabeth's most trusted musical advisors and personal tutors. The Bassanos weren't just musicians. They were crypto-Jews, a large family of Messianic Jews who secretly practiced their Jewish faith and traditions. This double life required incredible intelligence, discretion, and courage. Battista had earned such respect at court that Queen Elizabeth herself relied on his musical guidance and instruction. But tragedy struck young Emilia's life when she was just 7 years old. I believe Battista Bassano was murdered. There were 2 previous attempts on his life before he died. The exact circumstances of his death remain shrouded in mystery, but what we know is that this brilliant musician, poet and playwright, and scholar for that matter, met a violent end. I believe Baptista's death was likely connected to the dangerous political and religious climate of the time. Being a crypto-Jew in Elizabethan England meant constantly walking a tightrope between survival and discovery. One wrong move, one suspected betrayal, and death followed swiftly. When Queen Elizabeth learned of Baptista's murder, she was genuinely grieved. This wasn't just the loss of a court musician. This was the death of someone who had personally taught her music, someone she had come to respect and value. Queen Elizabeth, known for her fierce loyalty to those who served her well, immediately took action to protect Baptista's young daughter. the Queen arranged for her 7-year-old Emilia to be placed in the household of Susan Bertie, the Countess of Kent. This wasn't charity, this was recognition of Emilia's potential and her father's service to the crown. Susan Bertie was an extraordinary woman in her own right, highly educated and influential in the court. Under the Countess of Kent's protection, young Emilia received an education that was remarkable for any child of that era, let alone a girl. The Protestant scholar, translator and reformer Miles Coverdale was her tutor of theology and philosophy in his elderly years. Coverdale was well known for producing the first complete printed English Bible, the Coverdale Bible of 1535, which was often used by Emilia. Emilia learned languages, literature, music, dance, astronomy, law, and most importantly, she was taught to read and write at the most advanced level by various tutors. Perhaps most importantly, she was able to continue learning the secret traditions of her people. The Kabbalistic knowledge that her father had possessed was not lost. Through careful instruction and hidden teachings, Emilia absorbed the mystical and scholarly traditions that had been passed down through the generations of her family. When Emilia was older, she moved to the household of another remarkable woman, Margaret Clifford, the Countess of Cumberland. Margaret Clifford was known throughout England as one of the most learned women of her time. She was deeply religious, highly educated, and surrounded herself with scholars, poets, and thinkers. In this environment, Emilia's intellectual gifts flourished even further. She studied alongside Margaret's daughter, Lady Anne Clifford, who would herself become famous as a writer and patron of the arts. The relationship between Emilia and Lady Anne Clifford appears to have been particularly close. They were brilliant and both passionate about learning and literature. This period was crucial in shaping Emilia's understanding of how to navigate the complex world of Elizabethan court politics and literature. She learned not just how to write, but how to write in ways that she could convey hidden meaning and protected messages. This skill would prove essential when she began embedding Kabbalistic wisdom and Jewish thought into her poetry, plays, and mass. When Emilia was 18, another tragedy struck. Her mother died, leaving her truly orphaned. But by this time, Emilia had grown into a remarkable young woman. She was beautiful, brilliant, multilingual, and possessed knowledge that few people in England could match. She was also skilled in the performing arts, an accomplished actress who could perform in court masques and plays, and a dancer whose grace was noted by court observers. It was around this time that Emilia entered into her most significant and controversial relationship. She became the mistress of Henry Carey, Lord Hunsdon, who served as Queen Elizabeth's Lord Chamberlain. Now, it's crucial to understand what this relationship actually meant, because a lot of modern scholars have misrepresented it in ways that diminishes Emilia's true position and achievements. They have slurred her good name. When we say Emilia was Lord Hunsdon's mistress, we are not talking about a casual romantic liaison. The term mistress in Elizabethan England could mean several things: head of a household, someone in charge of a school, a supervisor of servants, or a female scholar and advisor. In Emilia's case, evidence suggests that she served as an intellectual companion and advisor to one of the most powerful men in England. Lord Hunsdon was Queen Elizabeth's cousin and one of her most trusted officials. As Lord Chamberlain, he was responsible for overseeing the royal household and, crucially, for managing the entertainment and cultural activities of the court. This included supervising the theatre companies that would produce the works of Shakespeare and other playwrights. In this position, Emilia Lanier, who was married during this time, had unprecedented access to the literary and theatrical world of Elizabethan England. Emilia's role went far beyond what most historians have recognised. She wasn't simply present at court. She was actively involved in the creation and development of literary works that were being produced. Her deep knowledge of classical literature, combined with her understanding of Kabbalistic symbolism and Jewish scholarship, made her an invaluable resource for writers and playwrights. She was a playwright in her own right. The relationship with Lord Hunsdon lasted several years and provided Emilia with something precious: security and the freedom to pursue her intellectual interests. She had access to the finest libraries in England. She could engage with the greatest minds of her time, and most importantly, she could begin to plan out how to share the wisdom of her ancestors with the world. But Emilia knew that she couldn't simply publish Jewish mystical teachings openly, because this could result in her death. The religious climate was still too dangerous, and the knowledge was considered too sacred to share directly. The time wasn't right. Instead, she developed a brilliant strategy. She would write comedy, tragedy, and history plays as vehicles for transmitting ancient wisdom and challenge the social order of her time. Her poetry appeared to be seeking patronage from noble ladies, but was actually teaching the ancient wisdom. I believe Emilia wrote up to 9 of the latter plays of Shakespeare. When Emilia finally published Salve Deus Rex Judaeorum, or Hail God, King of the Jews, in 1611, at a time when Jews were banned from England, she made history as the first woman in England to publish a book of poetry under her own name. Certainly the first Jewish woman. But this book was far more than it appeared to be on the surface. While it seems to be religious poetry dedicated to various ladies, it was actually a masterpiece of hidden meaning and coded knowledge. Its source documents are the same as the Shakespeare's sonnets. It's an incredible work. Salve Deus not only unlocks the sonnets, but it is the crescendo to the sonnets. That's how beautiful this poetry is. Through careful analysis of her verses, I uncovered layers of Kabbalistic symbolism, Jewish history, and feminine philosophy that were, quite frankly, revolutionary for their time. Emilia had managed to publish a work that challenged Christian authority, defended the work of intelligence of women, and preserved ancient Jewish wisdom, all while appearing to conform to the expectations of society. The title itself, Salve Deus Rex Judaeorum, was a bold statement that very few would have dared to make openly. Through her poetry, Emilia was reclaiming the narrative around her Jewish identity and challenging the anti-Semitic assumptions of her time. She was also asserting the intellectual and spiritual equality of women arguing that women were capable of receiving and transmitting divine wisdom. What makes Emilia's story even more remarkable is how she managed to survive and thrive in a world that was hostile to almost everything she represented. As a woman, she was expected to be silent and subservient. As a Jew, she was supposed to either convert completely, leave the country, or die. It was that simple. As an intellectual, she was challenging the assumption that learning and wisdom were the exclusive domain of men. Yet she navigated all these challenges with incredible skill, building alliances with powerful women, protecting her knowledge through careful coding, and ultimately ensuring that her voice would be preserved for future generations. The modern attempts to diminish her legacy by misrepresenting her relationship with Lord Hunsdon are not just historically inaccurate. They're a continuation of the same demonic forces that tried to silence her during her own lifetime. When scholars reduce her to stereotypes or dismiss her achievements, they're perpetrating the very prejudices that Emilia spent her life fighting against. Emilia Lanier's story is one of triumph over tragedy, intellect over ignorance, and truth over prejudice. From the murder of her father when she was 7 to her groundbreaking publication of poetry in 1611, she never stopped fighting for her right to think and to share wisdom. Her life shows us that even in the most restrictive societies, brilliant individuals can find ways to preserve and transmit knowledge. She proved that a woman can be a scholar, a master of mystical traditions, and a literary genius who helped shape the greatest period in English literature. Most importantly, she demonstrated that marginalised voices don't disappear. They find clever ways to survive and eventually emerge to tell their true stories. If you found Emilia's story as fascinating as I do, please like the video and share it with others that might appreciate the hidden history. Leave a comment below telling me what aspect of her life surprised you the most. And make sure you subscribe for more videos uncovering these secret stories. Emilia Lanier refused to be silenced in her lifetime, and we won't let her be silenced now. Her genius and courage and her wisdom deserved to be remembered and celebrated. Thanks for joining me on this journey into the extraordinary life of one of history's most remarkable women.